Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So, the devs have talked about it, they've teased us, they've showed us in the roadmap, we are getting new enemies, but what could those new enemies could be? Well, I've got a couple of ideas on what they could potentially be based on what we have on the tabletop game. So let's jump in and let's have a look and see what potential new nasties we will be facing in Space Marine 2. So we all know that we're going to be getting new enemies at some point in the future, probably in Season 2 within a couple of months, at least by the end of this year. And what could these new enemies be? Now, they have hinted that it's not going to be a new faction. So yes, as cool as it would be to get things like Necrons and stuff in the game, I don't think it will be. I think we're going to be seeing new Tyranids. In at least more Tyranids and potentially something else as well. But we're going to be jumping in and having a look at that now. So one thing I do think that we're going to be seeing is, first up, is these guys, Gene Stealers. I think it's pretty safe to think that we're probably going to get them at some stage in the game. Gene Stealers are a classic Tyranid unit. They've been around 40k for a very, very, very long time. They're iconic. And they're kind of cool. And, you know, I don't think we're going to get it, but potentially Gene Stealers could also bring in things like the Gene Stealer cult, which is an entire different faction that we could end up fighting here in the campaign and would kind of make sense with the Tyranid invasion. The cult generally rears its ugly head in and around before or just as the invasion starts. So it could work, but yeah, I definitely think we're going to be seeing Gene Stealers, and I'd be scary to see what they're going to be like. They're an absolute melee powerhouse unit, you know, with their rending claws and their scything talons. They would be pretty scary to face in close combat, so it would be kind of interesting. I think they would be really, really cool, and that's not all. So we have a lot more units that potentially we could get coming. So the next one up is the Broodlord. Yes, the Broodlord. So obviously you're going to have your normal standard Gene Stealers, which I would probably put on par with a warrior type level of enemy, but as a single sort of mini boss type threat in the game, I think a Broodlord would also be a very interesting one, and it would make sense if we get the Gene Stealers, we're probably going to have the Broodlord as well. So yeah, this would be a pretty scary prospect. I mean, Broodlords are scary in themselves, and just look at how beasty it would be. And I would think they would look pretty cool in the game as well. But there's many, 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 many more. One of the next enemies I would like to see them bring into the game is the Prime, the basically the sort of apex predator of the warrior sort of class of alien in the Tyranids. This was only introduced as a new unit in 10th edition with the Leviathan box. It's a really cool model, and it's kind of like a sort of HQ hero class of the warrior itself. Now, we have a lot of warriors. We have the melee warriors and we have the ranged warriors already, and it kind of makes sense that we kind of have that sort of next level up, that sort of zone thrope type sort of necronic thrope type thing, mini boss, Carnivex level sort of enemy, which would be the Prime, which kind of would work. I mean, we kind of already have the Lord already as a mission, but this guy popping in and out would kind of make sense because they're the next level down when it comes to sort of the synapses. So I could hopefully and definitely see one of these at least turning up at some point in the future, and they are pretty damn scary. Next up is the Death Leaper. So what is this? This is basically a souped up, jacked up, crazy Lictor. And we already have Lictors in the game. This is just a crazy version. Now, there is another one, a Necro Lictor, which is obviously, this is a dual kit. But yeah, I could definitely potentially see one of these coming in. They would be a definite cool boss level sort of Lictor. Would be quite nice. Lictors are relatively easy to kill now once you get the hang of them. You just have to apply pressure onto them once they pop out, and if you've got a tactical with an Auspex, you could really, really go to town on them. But one of these would be a really, really scary prospect, and it would be kind of cool mission to take out a Death Leaper, especially one of these. Next up is one of the things that I can definitely see is probably getting at some point. And again, this is another new unit and model that was added in 10th edition, is this. And this is the Norn Emissary. It is, there is also the other one, which is the Annihilator. They're relatively the same type of thing. One is kind of hunting down psychers. The other one is just hunting down sort of heroes, sort of like assassin type levels of Tyranids. I could definitely see one of these coming in, like story wise. They could either have it that, you know, our team is doing so much good work of killing them that they're sending out one of these to actually hunt down and try to kill one of us, basically the players itself. So it kind of makes sense. We definitely have that sort of assassin type character for the Tyranids, and it has been used. If you read the Leviathan novel, there is one of these hunting down one of the characters in the book, one of the Space Marines. It's really cool, and it would be a awesome operation to go in and actually try to kill this thing before it kills you, which would be super cool. And last up is the PsychoFage, which is again another unit, but we kind of already have that kind of effects that this thing does in the game. So when you've been hit by some of the Zoanthrope stuff, you kind of sort of have that sort of weird blurriness to your screen, and you're under the effects from the toxins and stuff. And this is what this thing basically does. It kind of hunts down psychers normally, but I think it would really kind of cool. And, you know, if we do get new classes such as a librarian, then this would be definitely a good adversary to put in the game for it as well. And it would be super cool running around amongst all the Hormagaunts and the warriors, and, you know, you really got to get in there and get it killed. Okay, so moving on to Chaos, because obviously we are going to be fighting a lot more Chaos in this game. And one of the things that I'm actually surprised that we've not seen in here is a Zangor Shaman, especially on a disc, or even just a Zangor Shaman in general. Now, we have Zangors in the game. They either have the shields, and they're really annoying sort of bird-like blue guys that run up and sort of stab you. Having that sort of hero level of one of them would kind of make sense. And I could kind of see us getting one kind of on par with what the Thousand Sun Sorcerer is that we have right now, but kind of floating around on his disc, just being a dick and just being really annoying. But it would be kind of cool to see them as well. One of the cool things I could hopefully see and would love to see in this is a MFiend. We have Hellbrutes. Hellbrutes are crazily really strong, but we kind of don't really have that many Chaos level sort of threats at that size for Chaos, and a MFiend would really fit in. It can either be the MFiend like this, or it could be the other version with the guns. So we could kind of have one or two, but you could kind of imagine that it has a lot of attacks, obviously coming in with those big fists, and it has those talons as well, and the little tentacles to kind of whip at you, and it would be kind of an interesting fight. And I think the devs would do a really good job, and they are big and brutal and scary, and they would be able to do like a charge attack and stuff like that. Really cool end level operation and things. I could see this happening. Definitely sort of flesh out the Chaos side, no pun intended. And next, we can't have Chaos without seeing a Demon Prince, and a Demon Prince would really make sense. I mean, who is leading these Chaos forces? Who is the person behind the Chaos forces? The guy that we fought in the campaign is a bit meh, but was he really in charge, or was he just a little minion for something a little bit more scarier and more powerful lurking there in the background, which would be really make sense, and that would be a perfect Demon Prince. Demon Princes would be a really good fight. They fly, they're really good in combat, they can shoot, they do sorcery, they're just a pain in the arse, and they would look really cool on the screen. And I would love nothing more to actually hit it with my my big hammer in the fist. Would be really awesome. They are iconic to Chaos as well, so yeah, you know, we could potentially see one. It would be really cool. And of course, we can't do any more wishful thinking than being wishful thinking, and absolutely go out there and actually add in the man, the legend, that is Magnus the Red, he who did nothing wrong. Because if you're going to have the Thousand Suns in the game, and you're going to have characters like Marius Calgar, and potentially Guilliman turning up at some point in the game within the campaign, then why not have an operation to take down Magnus the Red himself? How awesome would that be to have Magnus the Red in the game where you could fight him? That would be so cool. You'd get your ass kicked, but it would still be worth it. I personally don't think this is going to happen. I don't think we're going to see Magnus at all. I don't think we're going to see any of the Primarchs. We may get a nice little cinematic with Guilliman in there speaking to Titus. But potentially, I don't think we're going to see Magnus or Mortorian or even Angron, which would be a bit of a shame. Potentially Fulgrim, probably not. But yeah, it would be really awesome to actually get Magnus in there, and that's why I added him to the list. So that's potentially a lot of the cool stuff that we could get, but they could go in completely different directions to this. They could go into Aldari, they could even go into Necrons, and that's a whole host of other units that they could potentially take. I do think at some point we may see Necrons. We are dicking around in the Necron tomb world after all, and it kind of makes sense that there's probably going to be Necrons buried somewhere on that planet that we could potentially wake up. Chaos, they could always spread it away from Thousand Suns and move into something a little bit different. Maybe even bringing in some of the other legions, something like Abaddon and the Black Legion, or even Angron and the World Eaters, or something like that. But I do think it's probably going to stick to Thousand Suns because they're kind of like an iconic now bad guy for Titus. Would be really cool to see some word bearers, because obviously Ultramarines and word bearers, they really don't like each other. But that would be a very, very interesting story to sort of explore. But I do think that we're going to get some really cool stuff. I think mostly the new enemies are going to be Tyranids, and there's the ones that I've shown as probably a good chance that some of those there will probably end up being brought into the game at some stage, either with the new story missions that they've talked about or the new operations. All in all, super excited with what they're going to do. There is so much scope for them to do this. We could potentially get entirely new operations and stories going into new war zones and entirely new factions against things like Aldari or even Orcs. Orcs would be a really, really good thing to do and add in as in operations and stuff, and then you're able to bring them in the story, and even a horde mode as well, just like the first game where you just have hordes of Orcs. But they've kind of replaced the Orcs with the Tyranids for the second game, which kind of makes sense because, Tyranids are the big threat. But all in all, there's a lot of cool stuff that they could potentially do, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. So yeah, if you are enjoying my Space Marine 2 content and my other content, please hit that subscribe button, and obviously like, share, comment, and all of that good stuff, and ring the bell so you don't miss out. And then you can check out my members and Patreon areas if you want to support me in other ways. And I will catch you in the next video, everybody. Goodbye for now.